Warning, the opening moments of this podcast contain a mistake so heinous you will be shocked and horrified when you listen to it. You have been warned.
You are listening to Season 2 of The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, the short and often daily podcast in which I chronicle my life and attempt to be a writer by writing daily. Sometimes.
Hello, today is Monday the 6th of September 2025 and you're listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. And I left this podcast until later to record rather than do it as part of my live stream earlier because if I'm honest, my intention was to go back and do a bit more writing. So for anybody who didn't see the live stream, which I'm guessing is the majority of people who may be listening to this, I sat down and did the sign-off work on chapter 13. I changed the title. It was originally going to be called Back Again. It's now called Again and Again. And it tells the story. It's as I've said a couple of times, I'm trying now not to give spoilers away in this, so I have to be very careful what I say, but it is a pivotal point in the story. So I've done an awful lot of setup in the book up until this point, and chapter 13 is where things start to pay off. So I wrote it. It seemed like it was going to be a very long chapter when I was writing it. And I suddenly, I think it was during the writing live stream yesterday, I just got to a certain point and finished a scene intending to go back and write more. And then I looked at my notes and realised that actually, no, the scene was actually the perfect place to end it because the stuff I'd been sort of thinking about doing next was actually material from the following chapter. So it came in at about 5,000 words. It concentrates on my two characters who are currently in Newcastle as they say, Newcastle, and it's a chapter featuring mainly Saywood and Charlie, and it briefly has an appearance on the phone by Jagveer Singh as well. So I really enjoyed writing. I want to say more, but I kind of feel that I shouldn't. It came to 5,000 words. That brings my target for the month at 5,000 words. Now, bearing in mind, I have targeted myself of doing 30,000 by the end of the month. That means I should have done about 6,000 by now already. And because it's the 6th and there's roughly 30 days in the month. Obviously, I'm very, very slightly behind, but that's not a big deal. I mean, I've had 2 days in the middle where I did absolutely nothing. So, in fact, probably more like 3 days. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The chapter is now signed off, and I've looked at my notes, and I'm in quite a nice position now because with the timeline and where things are set, I can either go and tell the story of what happens next with Charlie and Saywood, because Jagveer's going to go and see them. Or I can switch perspectives and tell the next story in the chapter featuring sort of Molly, Evelyn, Isabel, and weirdly those chapters seem to also feature the Sutherland Institute stuff. So if I'm going to do a chapter, sometimes the whole chapter is Sutherland Institute. So I think chapter... what was the one I did recently? Was it chapter 11? Netta is set all around the Sutherland Institute characters. So I've got the choice now whether I continue directly with what's going on with Charlie and Saywood, or whether I switch back to the others. Again, there's my notes aren't very accurate now because I decided a couple of days ago there's something I need to put in, which I'm sorry I have already said this. There's something I need to put in which is set up for something that happens in book 3. And as I said, it's just showing that a certain thing can be done as a setup to the fact that it has to happen at a vital moment in book 3. I just didn't want it to feel like I was plucking it out of my bottom, that there was a precedent for this happening. So I hadn't decided which character it was going to happen to because it kind of didn't matter. It was more illustrative of the fact that it can happen. But I've decided which character it's going to happen to now. And actually, it then makes The chapter plan I've written a little bit needs to be adjusted a little bit, yeah, it actually it's good because it kind of. I'm gonna have to be so careful. I can't say what it is, but it just makes my life so much easier. For book 3, and also creates a bit of extra tension that I hadn't considered in this book, and also slows down the narrative a little bit for one group of characters. Because I'm 63,000 words, 64,000 words nearly in now, 63, 64, and it's not going to be wrapped up in the next 20,000 words or anything like that. Otherwise, I'd finish it this month. But as I say, the end game of the story is approaching now, or the end game of this book, really, because the end game of the story is the end of book 3. Because as I've sort of said before, the story is split between the 2 books, because I could almost release it as one book, but there's something about me that likes to, when you've got a series, to see books they don't have to be the same length, but they should be of a similar length. So it would seem weird having, book 1 is 300 pages, book 2 is 640 pages. J.K. Rowling, take note. Although that didn't matter, because again, the stories were getting more complex, and they were helping because the thing about Harry Potter as a series, whilst, with the way that the horrible woman has behaved now, I personally don't support them as a series now. Obviously, none of that was apparent when the books were being written and released originally, and they were a really good way of getting kids into writing, and almost sort of weaning them onto bigger books, because the first couple of books were quite short, and then the next one was a bit longer, and then they got a bit longer, and then the last one, or was it book 6, one of the ones you literally can't drop on your foot because you would break your toe. Anyway, that's enough about me waffling for today. Hopefully I'll be back at some point tomorrow to tell you I've started work on chapter 14. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. For more information about what I'm writing, go to linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W, where you can find details of my website and social media. I may see you there.
Did you spot the heinous mistake? Well, it wasn't that heinous. I might have been exaggerating a little bit. I did say September when it's definitely October. I haven't been using my character Charlie's trick of travelling back in time. I'm so sorry. I apologise. I'll never do it again. I almost certainly will.